I've got some questions to answer today about this training, and maybe you've had the same questions, so let's see what they are. First one is, if I'm neither good enough or not good enough, then how do I get my needs met? And this means, we've done some training, you've let go of the fear of being not good enough, and yet you're also not holding on to being good enough. And we're in this state of, okay, now what? What do I do next? Well, you're not a human doing. You are a human being. And you simply get to be yourself. And you get to respond appropriately to situations. And this does not mean that you have to evaluate if those situations are good enough or not. It just means that, if you see yourself spilling milk, well, then you clean up the milk, right? Or you stop the glass from tipping over. It means that you don't then beat yourself up for spilling milk. It doesn't prove that you're not good enough at holding a glass or whatever. Being responsible, it means you respond with your abilities and you simply behave in a way that is appropriate to you. And what that looks like, it's going to look differently to everybody. Question answered. Second question. How about my kids? Don't they need to be good enough to get ahead or to have okay choices? Yes, everybody needs to be good enough to have choices or good enough to do their job or whatever. But that's different than being good enough as a human being or simply being good enough in general. When we're concerned about being good enough or not good enough, we're so wrapped up in measuring and comparing that it's actually hard to respond with our abilities. Instead of fixing problems, we end up creating more. If you feel not good enough in some way and you go into denial about it, and now you're projecting it at work, maybe onto a report or something you've got to do, and you perceive that report as being not good enough. And so you have to get more detail, right? And stuff it in that report and to make your report good enough finally. What's going to happen is your report's going to be so thick and complete with so much information that nobody who reads it will actually believe that it's good enough. All they're going to see is, wow, there's a lot of info in there, and what they wanted was something concise, right? When we're wrapped up in measuring and comparing, we almost always get it wrong. So the answer is, when your children are not measuring and comparing, when they are simply being themselves, they will find the perfect job for them. And the choices that they get to make will be based on what feels good in their body, as opposed to being based on measuring and comparing against this nightmare / fantasy of being not good enough. So, that's basically it. This training, we're moving attention from out of our thoughts, right? Because here's you. Let me erase this and haven't actually used the board in a while. This is fun. So, here's you or us or me or whatever. And then we have the mind and we have feelings. And then we have the universe or the world outside of ourselves. And our attention or energy either goes through our mind, right, to give and receive information from the world, or it goes through our feelings to get information from the world, exchange information from the world. When we go through our mind, we measure and compare and always get it wrong because we always end up labeling something or us as not good enough. When we learn to go through our feelings, though, we always get it right because when we feel, we're only feeling reality. What you feel is what is real. And your feeling might be based on a lie. You know what? Next video, what it means to feel not good enough and why that is very real no matter what. Next video, stay tuned. This training is about reducing this line and increasing your feeling line of information. So these questions so far have been, well, how do I use this line better? And the answer is you don't use that line. You go through your feelings instead. And then the world makes a lot more sense. So if that brings up more questions, please send them in via email. I'm always happy to answer questions, and those are good ones. And I hope I interpreted them correctly. If not, send them again, and we'll catch you soon.